don't feel like I can properly give you recommendations on detective mysteries if I don't bring up my girl. Oh, what is it called? It's Senior Citizens Solving Murder Mysteries. And the final book is one of my favorite series. Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Bree. If you're new here, I make bookish content like reading vlogs and other book recommendation videos. Today's video, I am going to be talking through detective mysteries. So I really love mysteries, thrillers, getting into horror, but one of the kind of side genres of mystery that I really enjoy are detective mysteries. I know that for some, they aren't as intriguing as like a thriller, and I definitely like a thriller if I'm looking for something really crazy, scary, get my heart racing. But detective mysteries to me are just so cozy, and I love just like trying to figure out the clues along the way and picking out the red herrings, even though I think a lot of times those books come out to be like 3 or 4 stars for me. I think that just the feeling I get when I read them is just so cozy, and I love just trying to figure out what's going on. I also really like shows like that, so like Criminal Minds or NCIS or things where a detective is trying to solve a mystery. I've always been intrigued with, so I think that's why these call out to me. So I'm going to go through some detective mysteries that I think you should read, or some of these I haven't read, but I think they sound really, really good. But most of them, almost all of them, I have read. So without further ado, let's get into the video. I don't feel like I can properly give you recommendations on detective mysteries if I don't bring up my girl, Agatha Christie. So we've got 2 different ones here. This is The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie. This is a Hercule Poirot detective mystery. And then we've also got The Murder at the Vicarage, which is a Miss Marple mystery. So I have started the Poirot series. I have read probably like 5 or 6 books in the Poirot series, and I really enjoy them. I think the way she writes him is he's very cerebral, and he'll ask questions and you don't really know why he's asking these questions, but in the end it's kind of all revealed, and she likes to kind of keep you on your toes, and then he'll have a chapter at the end where he reveals how he knew everything. He's definitely like a much slower detective. There's not a lot of like running off to go catch this bad guy. It's very like slow, methodical questioning that he gets to the answers, and I really enjoy that. But I've yet to start Miss Marple, but it sounds really good, and I know my sister has watched the series. There's a Netflix series, no, not a Netflix series. There's a British TV series that I think is on Acorn TV. It's on something. She watched it, I can't remember how. And I really enjoyed the couple episodes I saw, so I really am excited to pick this up. And this is a woman who helps solve mysteries, and I think she isn't a detective. Yeah, I think she's just a woman in town, and she ends up like solving mysteries and maybe like hooking up the police to help them, and it just sounds really good, and I am really interested to see how she writes a female detective. So these are 2 that I would pick up. These are both the first ones in their series. At least for Poirot, you don't have to read them in order. Like, you're not missing out if you read them out of order, but I do enjoy reading them in order. I started not reading them in order, and now I'm kind of trying to go back and read in order just because I think it's fun. But there's like a lot. Those are all Poirot's, and then there's at least like 10 Miss Marple. I don't know if you can see that. So you could be reading for a very long time. This one is one I haven't read, but I'm super excited for it. I think it sounds so good. This came out in, I believe, 2021, and it just sounds like a really good detective type mystery. So that is Dead Dead Girls by Nekisa Aafia, and this is a Harlem Renaissance mystery. So our main character is her name is Louise Lloyd, and she's a young black woman, and basically she starts noticing that these women in her community are showing up dead. They're being killed, and she knows she needs to do something, but it causes something goes wrong where she ends up getting arrested and is given like the choice to work with the police or to like go to jail, I think, basically. And so she chooses to work with the police, and I just think this is gonna be so good, and getting a black woman perspective as a detective I think is just so cool. I think this just sounds so good. It's set in Harlem Renaissance time. I think that the commentary I'm really interested to see, and I haven't read again, like I've said, I haven't read a mystery from the perspective of a Black woman detective. I will be picking this up soon, but if that's something that sounds like up your alley, I would pick it up. So this one is a looser representation of detective mystery, I guess. So this is Mistress of the Art of Death, and this is by Ariana Franklin. So this is set in medieval times. This is set during the Crusades. I think it's the first Crusades. No, I think it's the second Crusade. But basically, she was taught in the art of, what is it called? She's taught how to do autopsies and things like that and figure out how someone was killed. But she learned that in Italy, but women in this time in the UK are not allowed to do anything. So she has her award with her, basically, and he's from somewhere in the Middle East, but I can't remember where exactly. But they can speak Arabic to each other, and so he is like seen as the detective, and she is seen as the like his helper, when really when they're speaking to each other it's the other way around. And he is very knowledgeable about things, but she is the one with the medical training, and they basically go around and have to solve these murders. And I think it's a interesting look at a woman in this time period solving mysteries and doing what she's doing, especially because not only is she like working, but she's dealing with dead bodies. And at this time too, like, women weren't even supposed to see the dead, really. It was like very taboo because they think a woman's gonna swoon and all this stuff. So she has to deal with a lot going through it, and I really enjoyed it. I read this for a medieval literature class, and so we talked about like the history and how it actually really holds up in this book, and talk about the Crusades and stuff like that. So if that sounds interesting to you, I think it is one worth picking up. It's not exactly a detective, but she is a detective in a way, because she is like doing autopsies and things like that. So yeah, I would highly recommend. Okay, so this one is a true detective mystery, and that is The Word is Murder by Anthony Horowitz. This is definitely a Sherlock Holmes-esque type story, but it is where there's a detective named Hawthorne, and Anthony Horowitz writes himself into the story. And so basically the story is that Anthony Horowitz is trying to write another novel, and he follows this detective around as he solves this crime. And Detective Hawthorne is a brilliant, eccentric man, as quick with an insult as he is to crack a case. And they basically go and are trying to figure out this murder, and Anthony Horowitz gets entangled in this murder investigation. I believe there's 2 more books out. I have yet to read them. I have The Sentence is Death, which is the second one that I want to pick up soon. I thought this was well done. I liked getting the perspective of the author writing himself into the story. I thought that was really cool, and it's like interesting to pick out like what is fact about him and what is fiction. I think a lot of it is fiction mixed in with some facts. I really thought it was good. It was well done. I think it was like a more modern day Sherlock Holmes, and more topics like racism, and Hawthorne himself has like beliefs that Horowitz like will counter and hope to like make him see a different way of thinking. And so I thought that was interesting to read about, and I think if you want a modern day Sherlock Holmes, this might be for you. Okay, so the next one is also an Anthony Horowitz, but this is called The House of Silk, and this is a Sherlock Holmes story, so it's under the series Horowitz's Holmes, and basically the Conan Doyle Sherlock Holmes like society, who has all the like rights to Sherlock Holmes stories, approved him to write a Sherlock Holmes story. So this was the first one, and there's another one out called Moriarty. This one is just an addition to Sherlock Holmes, and I think this one's a lot darker than I ever remember Sherlock Holmes stories being, and I think he did a really good job of writing a Sherlock Holmes that sounds like Sherlock Holmes. And this is basically where these young boys are going missing, and Sherlock is like figuring out what happened to them, and it's just a very harrowing story. I thought that it was well done. It definitely has all the makings of a Sherlock Holmes, so if you want something that's a little more like, you don't always know what he's thinking and he's just running into scenarios, it's definitely true to that. But I thought if you really love Sherlock Holmes and you've read all the Sherlock there is to read, this might be one for you, because it is a Sherlock, but it's a newer tale. So this one is one I'm going to read in a book club with my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law, and my sister-in-law has read it and this has been on my TBR for a while, so I have not read this one, but I think it sounds like a really good detective mystery and I've heard really good things about it. So that is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman, and this is basically a couple of retired people in a retirement home. They go and they meet up in the jigsaw room and they kind of solve crimes, and so they get themselves into these mysteries, figuring out what happened to people. And this one is a local developer is found dead with a mysterious photograph left next to the body. The friends suddenly find themselves in the middle of their first live case. It's senior citizens solving murder mysteries, and I think it just sounds so good, and it loosely fits that detective mystery. If you like something like that, I think a group of people solving a mystery is always fun, and I think that the retirement angle and like being in a retirement community just sounds like such a cute and really fun story. So I'm excited to pick this one up, and I've really heard good reviews. That's why I'm confident that I think this would be a good detective mystery to read. Okay, so we have two more. So this one is a Lady Sherlock book, and this is actually the second one because I don't have the first one. So the first one is A Study in Scarlet Women, and this one is A Conspiracy in Belgravia and by Sherry Thomas. They're part of the Lady Sherlock series. So it's basically the premises if Sherlock Holmes was a woman, and the first case, I don't know if it's, I can't remember if it's completely tied to like the Sherlock Holmes stories, but from what I remember of Sherlock Holmes and from the first book, which I read about a year ago, I don't think that they were related. It's just basically if Sherlock Holmes was a woman and she has to hide her identity, so people believe Sherlock Holmes to be a male, but her name is Charlotte Holmes, and she is just trying to not be put into the life of a woman in this time period where you just stay at home and you don't work. So she's very smart, she picks up on things others don't, and she wants to put that to good use. And so she basically opens up her own detective agency where people believe that she is a male. And I thought the first one was really well done. I'm excited to see where the series goes from here, because the first one was a lot of setup of like how she becomes Sherlock Holmes, and this one I think will dive more into the mysteries and things like that. So I really enjoyed it. I think if you like Sherlock Holmes but you want a woman's perspective, this would be one for you. And the final book is one of my favorite series. It is the Pendergast series. I did not feel like reaching on the bottom of that like 10 book stack to get to the first one, so I picked up the third one, which is the Cabinet of Curiosities. This is part of the Pendergast series, and Pendergast is a detective who basically is an FBI agent, and he solves these mysteries that no one else can really solve. They're kind of bizarre. A lot of them have a little bit of supernatural elements to it. I think sometimes they do play with like the paranormal aspects of things. This is by Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child, and I think they do a good job of like mixing some paranormal with these thrillers. They're definitely more of a thriller. They're gonna get your heart racing, but I think from a detective standpoint, it's really good. You often don't get the perspective of Pendergast, although you do sometimes. Most of the time you're getting the perspective of someone he's working with. So there's a couple different people throughout the series that are the narrator, but you also get some chapters from other people's perspectives. So sometimes it could be the villain, or sometimes it could be just another person on the case, or someone who just has an important scene. So it's not always from that like one viewpoint. But the first book is basically the New York Museum has a series of murders, and he goes and he figures out what's happening, and the first two are very connected. But after that, it really dives off from there, and I would say the first two aren't my favorite, but once you get to Cabinet of Curiosities and you go from there, I think they really pick up. And I enjoyed the first two, but I think that the third onward is so good, and they have trilogies within the series that I think they do really well, but I don't want to give anything away. So yeah, if you haven't picked this up, I would really recommend it. If you like fast-paced thriller, but you also want a detective kind of story, this is a good middle ground for you, I think. And I don't think they do everything perfectly, but I do think that they're fun and they keep me on my toes and just like having to know what's coming next. So yeah, so those are all the books I have. I hope you enjoyed. I think that all of these are ones that I would definitely recommend. And I always have a good time with detective mysteries. I think if you're someone who's looking to get into the mystery but you want something a little more soft to bring you into that genre, I think detective mysteries could be for you. But if you also just enjoy figuring out what's going on, picking up on clues and red herrings, then detective mysteries are a really good option. They're a little different from cozy mysteries. These aren't as cozy. They do deal with some darker topics, but I think that just the picking up on clues part is what makes them cozy to me. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. If you've read any of these, I'd love to know your thoughts. And if you have any others to add to the list, please comment down below. I'm always looking for more detective mysteries and for other people to look at that list too. It would be really cool if we could get a full list of all detective mysteries down below. That would be just really fun. So anyway, I hope you had a good time and I will see you next time.